Wonderful. Good afternoon, all of you, all the participants. Ravi, am I audible to you?
Yes, yes, you
I
are.
think you can also project your screen. I'll just put a small
Yes,
introduction and hand
audible.
it over to you. Warm
Yeah, you are
welcome.
audible.
Yeah, warm welcome in today's sessions for all the participants. I found there are many participants who came from our past webinars and they also. So let me give you a small introduction. We have started webinar series around 2 So once the COVID lockdown had appeared to us, we found it is a kind of new experience in our life. So how to sustain business, what all we should do. So we thought let us create some kind of knowledge sessions for our customers, our ecosystem, our collaborators, and our partners. So from that idea, we did already around 10 odd webinars where we have discussed about many different things, starting from business continuity, EDR to mail security to cloud security, mobile device management, and many things. So today we have a very interesting session. It is being conducted by IBM. We have Mr. Ravi, who is an expert of IBM security specialist, is expert in resilient and I2 both. He is having 13 plus years of experience in the domain and in-depth expertise in SOC, SIEM, SOAR, and that kind of platforms. So I'll hand it over to Ravi to take us through the journey of next generation SOC kind of products and solutions. Thank you.
Hey, thanks a lot, guys. I hope you can hear me clearly and you can see my screen. So, what we're going to do is for the next 75 to 90 minutes, we're going to discuss about. Okay, so
Your
Mohammed,
voice is little low. Audience saying they are not able to hear. Can you just see if your microphone or something?
is it better now? Let
Far
let me
better, far
switch to
better.
my screen and I'll tell you.
Hi Ravi, your voice is not audible. Can you make it louder?
Guys, just give me 1 second. I'll put my headphone. Maybe that will work.
Okay, okay.
Is it audible?
Yeah, little bit. Can you louder?
Ravi, you're audible, but still it's not as clear. If you can maybe increase the volume of your laptop and come closer, little closer to the speaker,
Yes.
please.
Okay, wait a minute.
So while Ravi, just sets it up, just a quick introduction to a few of the IBM team members here. This is Santosh Shriyan. I handle the channels for the India and South Asia region, and we are very happy to do this joint webinar along with the Prime InfoServe team. Over to you, Ravi. Just wanted to give a brief introduction.
Yeah, so I hope I'm far. So is it audible now? Is the sound quality
Yeah,
better, guys?
much better, Ravi. Yeah, just be a little louder. That's it. Now it's
Sure.
much better.
So the agenda for today's session is very simple. We can react to things what we can see, and once we have the visibility of what is happening around, that is when we can respond to it. So it's pretty simple. If we relate it to a real life scenario, what we're facing right now, the COVID-19 situation. What is the most alarming thing in terms of COVID-19 is that you don't know who's the one who's infected. And that is why it is becoming difficult for everyone to safeguard themselves. So the enemy is out there. I mean, I'm calling them the individual enemy would be a wrong term, but the individual who's infected is out there, but you don't know how to safeguard yourself because you're not aware of who this guy is. Similarly, when we work in a security environment, when we work in a SOC, the most important thing is we have a lot of information, but how to make use of that information, how to find the dark part in the whole bright light to understand what is the incident that will actually impact my SOC. And once I have that incident with me, how can I leverage this information? How can I leverage the intelligence that is with me to facilitate a better response into the system? So what we're going to cover today is we're going to understand about two technologies. One is QRadar and the other one is Resilient. Now, QRadar, as you know, it's one of the legacy product, one of the products which has enjoyed its piece of limelight across the industry. It has been in Gartner quadrant for almost 10 plus years, and it has been a leader, uh, featuring a lot of technology efficiencies which were brought to the industry by QRadar itself. On the other hand, we have Resilient, which is a very bright product from IBM, which helps in SOC teams respond fastest. So this is the part where we start talking about orchestration and automation. So Resilient is the orchestration and automation responsible from IBM. So at any point of time, if you have any queries, feel free to ask. Sometimes what happens is uh, when we want to ask something, we hold it back, and by the time we ask this thing, we actually miss the last stuff because we were continuously thinking about the same question. So feel free to ask any questions at any point of the time during the conversation. So how we're going to divide it is we're going to have two presentations, one on QRadar and Resilient. Then we're going to have a real life demo of these products. So we'll not do a death by PPT kind of a scenario. So, as I said, what we struggle with these days are the things that we're not aware of. And what are these things? These could be stealthy adversaries, you know, bad things which are out there, which uh, just a request if you can mute yourself. There are things which are out there which are not visible to us. There could be some faults and flaws in our system which we are not aware of. So vulnerabilities. I've just recently updated a operating system. Is it secure? Are there any flaws in the system? Are there any vulnerabilities which are still available? So I'm not aware of it. How is my network responding to it? Am I facing attacks with regards to these kind of vulnerabilities? What are my insider audience doing? Do I have a dark sheep in the whole audience that I have inside? What is that somebody who's sitting inside is actually leveraging the trust and taking out all the informations from there? And what about the privacy risk? We come across new and new compliance every now and then. Now, the milestone of all the compliances at this moment is GDPR. But we have things like ISO 27000, we have NERC, we have HIPAA, we have PCI. So every industry has its own set of compliances which they need to follow. So how do we ensure with so many devices in place, with so much of information popping up, with so much of data that is being flown to us, how to go ahead and understand, what is that is happening around us? We did a small survey, and the numbers are in front of you. Almost 44% of alerts are never investigated because we have a problem of plenty. We have so much of data coming in that when we actually get some information, we get some logic around it becomes hard for us to respond to it. This could be a clear case of having too much of information but not being able to respond due to lack of time. 54% of alerts which are legitimate in nature are actually overlooked. They're not remediated. What could be the possible reason? If I have to ask anybody who's running a SOC, what is the reason that even if when I have a simplest of queue available around some incident, I am not able to respond to it? It could be lack of staff, it could be lack of visibility and context around this issue. This could be additional information which was required or lack of intelligence. So such kind of activities we need to take care of while responding to incidents in SOC. And 36% says that keeping up with the alerts is too concerned. So if you look at all these three problems, the problem is that there is too much to handle, and we're not able to respond in timely manner. So that is where the next generation SOC comes into the picture. We start from a point where we have no visibility, We build a SOC, understand what is happening, and then have an efficient system in place which can actually help us not just understand what is happening, but also help us facilitate the orchestration and automation of responses. So it's like there is a thing that I am feeling thirsty right now. Now, what is that I need to do? First, I've been able to understand that what is my requirement right now. I am feeling thirsty, or let's put it this way: there's a kid who's crying. Now, a crying kid is a difficult puzzle to solve. You don't know what the kid is crying for. The kid could be crying for a stomach ache, could be hungry, could have messed up his diaper or something. So first thing is to understand what has happened, and then is to facilitate that activity. Now, similarly, in a SOC, when something is going wrong, maybe one of my applications are not responding the way it should be. So first, I have to understand: is there a DOS attack which is happening on it, or there are too many, maybe login authentications being run against this individual applications, or there is too much of bandwidth which is being consumed. What is the possible thing? Now, once I get into that point, is okay, I know there's a DOS attempt happening. I've collected the logs, the correlation has happened. How to ensure that this is now being responded in an efficient manner is where the role of an efficient SOC operation comes into the picture. So when we talk about threat detection, there are three major pillars. First, see everything. You have to understand what is happening. The second thing is we have to automate the intelligence. Now, let's say we were talking about vulnerabilities. I've updated an operating system. There is a new vulnerability which is out there. If I'm aware of all what is happening on my network, what kind of responses that I'm getting, what kind of requests, what kind of URL requests that are flowing onto my network, I am in a better position to understand if somebody is trying to exploit this or not. So we have a question. Santosh, can you just check up with the questions and shoot if there is something with the real time?
Sure, sure. I'll do that. Sure. So
Thanks,
there is
thanks.
one question. Should we take a small break in between and then answer? Because I don't want to upset your flow while you're presenting.
Not a problem. So it's 4:15. We'll take the first round of questions at 4:30. Until then, you can collate all them together.
Sure,
Does
sure, sure.
that
I'll
sound
do
good?
that. Yeah, please carry on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, when we talk about threat detection, there are three pillars. First is see everything. And this is where we started our conversation, that we should be aware of what's happening. Now, vulnerability happened. Is it even legitimate? I have all the Windows system in my environment, and there are attacks which are coming, which are focused for a Linux environment. So the intelligence should come in place automatically, saying, okay, my assets don't even have a Linux machine. We don't have to be, scared of this kind of activity. We have to be proactive in nature. How can proactivity come into the nature? We have to build our operation plans in such a manner that we can respond to activities. We have to build our system in a way that we can predict what could be the fault point at which my system would actually go down, and I'm not able to respond in the right manner. What could be the possibility that there are attacks that can happen? So we have to maintain these three pillars in an effective manner. If to put it in a very simple way, imagine a stool with three legs. If any of the leg breaks, we loses the balance. Similarly, while having an effective threat detection, we have to ensure that we should have visibility, we should have context around it, and we should be proactive in the sense that we should be able to detect things before they happen. It should not always be a postmortem activity where we start responding to activities when it has been done, but we should have capability. So, having the right set of parameter security in place, having the right set of visibility aligned to these parameter security, with the new correlation rules and offenses getting triggered, uh, you know, providing more insight to such kind of activities will actually help our system. So, we've been talking about visibility, we have been talking about intelligence, we've been talking about automation. Now, where do we start from? And this is one slide of QRadar, which for me, which I would say is one slide over which I can talk for 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, because this actually covers the gist of the whole product. Now, what is the kind of concerns that we see? We see, you know, survey says that almost 30 to 35% of people are worried about insider threats. Now, almost everyone is worried about external threats. We can trust people who are, you know, worried about their own team at times, but we are 100% sure, can we trust the people who are outside our system? No, we cannot, because we have to safeguard our activities. Now, everybody is moving into cloud. How safe is cloud? How am I going to protect my assets over there? What actually is happening in the cloud? Usually what happens, we buy a service in the cloud and that's about it. We don't have a visibility of what is happening, who's accessing, who's not. Is it a shareable cloud? Are there multi-tenants which are sitting on one instance? Is this something which is hosting multiple applications? Could be a possibility. I have secured my application to the best of the possible methodologies, but another application which is hosted on the shared infrastructure is very vulnerable in nature. Can I see what is happening as a lateral movement? Can I predict what is going to happen? Can I assume that my system is safe? And what is happening to my critical data? So all these concerns are there. Now, when we start talking about these concerns, we need to understand, for us to be rock solid on the visibility part, we have to collect information. And information comes from the points like endpoint. Now, when I say endpoint, I'm not talking about systems and servers. I'm talking about endpoint management systems like a AV system. I just heard that we've had recent webinars with regards to AV and mail and web gateways and all those technologies. So all these technologies which are there in the infrastructure, which gives us the visibility of what's happening in my infra. Now, this could be logs coming from an antivirus server giving me information of what is happening on the systems. How many of my systems are updated with the recent antivirus updates? This could be Active Directory giving me information with regards to authentication. How many of my systems are being regularly bombarded with brute force attempts? How many of my systems are regularly being asked to change their password? Are we compliant to the policies that we have set in place? Is there the 90 days policy or the 60 days policy which is required as per my... Somebody wants to get on the call. Uh, I have to decline this request. I'm sorry. Yeah. So we need to understand what is happening at the network level also. Now, when we talk about logs in first place, we're talking about things like event logs, which are sys logs. These could be firewall logs. This could be logs coming from web gateways and all. But there are things beyond this, because when we talk about logs, we talk about layer 3. Now, what is happening beyond the layer 3 level? What is happening at the flow level? So there are technologies like Qflow, Sflow, Jflow, now NetFlows. All these technologies actually provide you information with regards to the network layer. What is happening? Which port is communicating to which port? Which IP is communicating to which IP? What is that the traffic is being transferred and all those activities? Now, QRadar has a USP of capturing the flows up till the level of layer 7. Now, usually what happens is, when we talk about layer 4, we just talk about port to port communication, socket layer, that is precisely, and we end up getting basic encryption. But then nowadays there are applications which can work on custom ports. So maybe a port which is regularly used by a legitimate application is now being used by some application which could be a torrent, which could be a peer-to-peer, which could be a file sharing activity. Now, do I allow such kind of activities in my environment? Should I be letting this kind of traffic roam from here to there? This kind of activity can be captured using QRadar components. Now, very soon we'll be coming on to the list of all the components which are there and their role. So I'll be briefly covering that aspect over here. Third point that I talk about here is the data activity. Now, it's very good that I'm capturing logs, I'm capturing flows, but do I really have the visibility of what actually happened? Can I recreate the whole environment and see, okay, the user John was working on one incident, then he clicked on some another page, then he moved into somewhere else, and that is where actually the virus came into the system. So to have the capability of regenerating the whole thing around this is where we start doing the data capture activities, which is the PCAP functionality that QRadar has to offer. Now, you know, you guys would have heard this thing very regularly nowadays. That is UEBA, user entity and behavior analysis. Now, why UBA is becoming so popular? Because in the latest surveys, and we've noticed that the largest number of breaches which are happening because of the insider threat. And what actually is at concern is data. Because you see any large number of breach incident, the first thing that will come is data worth this much was breached. So it is not about what is being breached at the parameter, it is about what is being breached inside the system, how much information has been gathered, what is the loss to revenue, what is the actual loss to organization with regards to data. So the concern has now, as I said initially, it's not just external threats, it's the internal threats that the organizations are also worried about. IBM QRadar has an inbuilt UBA functionality leveraging machine learning, which provides you a high level of information around what your users are doing. What is the risk which is associated to these users? What are the activities they have been regularly involved into? Now, the advantage of having a UBA as a part of SIM is that we can now leverage this information and have correlation. Hello. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, please be on mute, everyone. So, Shobhan, if you can mute everyone, we'll open
Yeah,
the
by default
discussion.
everyone is muted. Maybe someone accidentally unmuted himself, something like that.
No
Okay,
problem. I can
sorry.
sort
Go
that
ahead,
out for
Ravi.
you. Yeah. So the user behavior capability allows us to understand what is actually happening in my organization with regards to the user activity. Now, let's say I have 20 odd users, and out of those, only two are the ones who can actually access my databases or who work in the night shifts. Now, all of a sudden, their activity pattern changes. They're doing some different activities. They were supposed to send two login authentication request bases on their pattern, but all of a sudden, I'm noticing 20 odd, authentication requests coming. Or imagine the case of current environment where now everybody is sitting at home. They're working from their home. So how do I ensure when these individuals who are actually moving all around in the system while sitting at home, they are the legitimate people who are accessing my systems? Because I've given a VPN offering, I've let them come into the system. Once a user lands into my system using a VPN, I never have a control over it because the landing server at which I give him the authentication and authorization, from there it can literally move into any of the components. Now, what is he doing? What kind of activities are being performed? I can gather that such information from various components, various endpoints like a mail gateway, web gateway, Active Directory, LDAP servers, CMDB servers, to understand what this individual has been up to in the recent times. And when I have this whole lot of information together, collected as a part of a big chunk of information, how can I add more value to it? I can do that using threat intelligence. IBM QRadar offers out of the box X-Force Intelligence threat feed, which is one of the most popular threat feed around the globe, which allows you to match the data that you're capturing with the information which is available globally regards to the IP addresses, the URLs, the hashes, and all, to understand whether they are malicious, whether it is coming from a bad individual. So I'll give you a very simple example of this. Imagine a case, I meet you face to face and I start talking to you about QRadar. And you would say, why this individual is talking about this thing? Because you have no context around it. You would say, okay, he's got the knowledge, but why should I be actually, giving this guy value? But on the other hand, you get to know from the IBM channels team, you get to know from Prime that this guy is, a specialist on QRadar and he has a lot of knowledge and he's here to solve a problem that you were talking about. Now, what has happened is I've added context to the information which was already served. And the moment you add context, it becomes a very rich information. And when such kind of information happens, it gives you uh, ability to respond to these incidents and the correlations which has happened around you. So this would be really fruitful while you want to create a proactive response methodology, or when you want to create a response plan. So at these kind of points, this becomes really really useful. Santosh, I see a lot of questions coming, so let's take a 5-minute break and first answer these questions, because I don't want people to continue thinking about their questions. So let's take some questions which are there.
Yeah, hi. Am I audible?
Yeah,
The
you are.
question.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have couple of IBM colleagues, sales folks also in the call, Akash Goyal and Dia. So the first question, actually Akash has answered in the chat. The first question was, are these systems already based on AI, or over let's say 3 years time, AI will be more dominant component in these products? So Akash has answered. I will just read it, and if you want to add, Ravi, you can add. AI is available from day one, but of course the system has to learn the behavior of your system to give intelligent insights. So it takes few months to mature according to your environment.
That's a very brilliant explanation, Akash, I must say. See, basically what happens is when we have a lot of data, AI and ML is one of the words which are being used very regularly nowadays. But we have to understand, for us to understand whether we are moving in a positive or negative direction from the baseline, we have to first form the baseline. So as we start collecting the information over a period of time, we start making baselines around this data. And IBM QRadar leverages machine learning from day one itself, and it understands on what is happening and what is the pattern which is being built. Now, let's say Ravi Mallah comes to office every day at 9 o'clock and start working on a system, sends 40 odd emails, do log in on 5 to 7 devices, and this is what his digital identity looks like. This is what his digital footprint looks like. This is what he does regularly. Now, one Saturday, which is supposed to be his off day, Ravi is in office and he is doing things which are not normal in nature. So from 40, he has jumped it, static correlation rules for such kind of activities, because these are deviations from the normal characteristics. This kind of activities are catered using UBA functionality, where we calculate the risk associated to a user. Now imagine from 40 to 45. Now this could be a normal activity. We cannot trigger a case. So if Ravi, from this week onward, Monday to Friday, rather than doing 40, he starts doing 50, this would become a new normal for Ravi. And hence AI and ML would understand what is the deviation and anomaly which is taking place, and what is the system now need to report as the new abnormal, because the new normal has changed from 40 to 50. I hope this answers the question.
Hey, thanks, Ravi. There is another question. Does it also support corrective action and also notify for a preventive action also?
Okay, so Devashish asked this. Mr.
Yeah,
Devashish,
Devashish asked this question.
a good question. When we talk about next gen SOC, the idea is to actually have the corrective actions in place also. Because imagine a scenario, 11 o'clock at night, there's only one SOC individual at my office, some attacks happen, I cannot wait till 9:30 in the morning for my team to arrive and respond, because by then it's almost 10 plus hours which has gone by, and now a lot of damage has been done to my system. So we that is what we're focusing on, that we have to now move into the era where we're not just able to find what happened, we are able to correct what is happening. We are able to take actions to ensure that this is blocked then and there itself. So the resilient component of the next gen SOC that we offer is actually the tool which gives you first guided response. So the individuals who are sitting in your SOC, they can take advantage of this guide and take actions. On top of that, you let's say there is a scenario where this IP address is malicious in nature. I don't want to waste my time. The moment I see this IP address in any of the log, I want to block it on the external firewall. Click. I want everything automated. So yes, you can have manual response which can be guided. You can have automatic response as and when the incident triggers or the correlation or the offense happens, you immediately has the capability to go ahead and block it.
Okay, there are a few more questions coming. So, Ravi, I just want you to do a time check because we are 30 minutes down the line and you also want to cover a demo. So, I can read the questions if you want, or we can save it for later, as you wish.
I'm going through these questions, and most of the questions actually focus on the AI part. So that is something that I've answered. There's a question which says, does it require deployment of agents on endpoint and other network element? So see, for all the components which support forwarding of logs using syslogs or pulling of logs through their central manager, we don't require any agent. The likes of Windows and Linux, they have this native capability. Almost every third party device which is out there in the industry right now support log forwarding. But in case there is a device, or due to some compliance reason, you cannot activate the native logging functionalities, we do have agents available for Windows and Linux machine. Otherwise, if you don't want to install agent, there is no need at all to have these agents deployed. So we'll move into the presentation back. So we keep finding your questions. Any questions which is left unanswered, what we are going to do is we can have I'll share my email ID. We can have one-to-one conversation where we have enough time. Everybody is at home. We can do all these conversations. So don't be worried if I miss any of your questions. We'll surely have the answers for them. Uh, so now we spoke till the threat intelligence part. Now the next thing is configuration information. QRadar has a very beautiful feature which actually helps you with regards to your configuration also. Now usually what happens is we make regular changes in our firewalls, we make changes in our IPSs and everything. Similarly, we make changes into the correlation rules. Now, with any change that I've made recently, how my system is impacted? Am I am I missing on something? Do I need to make some new changes? Do I need modifications of these kind of activities somewhere else? Also, it gives me information of that source. It also gives me the capability to actually guide the curator whether it is giving me a false positive or it is giving me a true information. So usually what happens is we create a correlation rule, and I'll give you an idea. I'll give you a very good example. This happened with me, and this is almost like what year 2009 something. This is when I was deploying my first SIM. What happened is I created some correlation rules, and all of a sudden my dashboard was filled with lots and lots of alerts. And I was wondering why this is happening, because there was no need for this IP2 trigger. And this was actually for a SNMP sweep. Later on, I realized, I was sitting and I was thinking why this SNMP sweep is coming. I realized that the IP address which is being targeted as a SNMP sweep active agent is my NMS server. Now, our NMS is actually supposed to pull every device in the network on a SNMP port. And why should he not be doing that? But the rule that is configured on the SIM, uh, guys, I don't understand why you're requesting for annotations. Uh, you can raise your queries in the chat.
Yeah, you can ignore that. So I think we are following the chat. If anything comes, we'll moderate.
Okay, so usually what happens is there are rules that get triggered because of some false positive, because of the basic nature of the correlation rules which have been triggered. So the QRadar gives you the capability to actually go back and let the SIM know that this is a false positive, and I would request that next time onward you don't trigger this thing. So now you have the capability to ensure that, let's say on day one, if I get 100 offenses which are being generated, and over the analysis I would understand that out of 100, 80 is something which is the normal behavior for my organization, and I don't want these to be treated as an occurrence in future. We have the capability to go back and ensure that this is not happening again.
এদের
Vulnerabilities and threats,
এই
again, one
কিছু
of the
করিস
most
না
important parts. QRadar has inbuilt vulnerability
আরে
assessment
এখানে
tool
যাস না ল্যাপটপ
built
আছে
out of it. This is not a real-time assessment tool. It's not something like where you can have the whole asset and you can start running. It is a step ahead. What it helps you do is with everything that is coming, the packet and everything that you're capturing and all, we get assessment of what is happening with regards to the vulnerability of your asset which is there. So QRadar creates an asset resource basis on all the informations that it has collected. This gives you detail of the IP addresses, the operating systems, the versions and everything of the endpoints which are there. And basis on that, if there are any vulnerabilities which are popping up around this, it will give you security around that. The last part is cloud platform. We are open to any kind of cloud. So I'm on my next slide. What I'm going to do is I am going to showcase some deployment models. So let's take it to the next slide where we're going to cover this part. So quickly, what are the deployment models that we have? So we can be a totally on-prem. Now when I say on-prem, it could be a appliance, it could be a software deployment, it could be a virtual machine. So on-prem for me is something which is being owned by the customer in their own premises. We also have QRadar as a cloud service. So we call it QRoC. So it's a totally security as a service deployment, totally managed by IBM team who are responsible for hardware and everything. So you have the complete control. You can add your data sources, you can create offenses and everything. Apart from two or three major admin activities, you can perform everything on the system and have your setup up and ready within no time, because you don't have to worry about initial installation and everything. The thing is up and running. You can start connecting your data sources to it and start sending information and have the correlations triggered as soon as you want. We, as I said, cloud, we are cloud ready. We can work on AWS, Azure, Google Cloud. So we can work on any of the cloud which is out there available right now. And this gives us the capability to ensure that when so this brings me to the next point, actually, hybrid, where nowadays almost every organization has 20 to 30% of their applications deployed on cloud, and you just can't let them be there just like that. You want to be aware of what is happening there. So you can have components deployed on your network, you can have components deployed on cloud, and you can have a single console for both of them so that you have the complete visibility. Now, going up in the diagram, it collects data across the entire environment. As I was saying in the hybrid part, you can have data being collected from your on-prem deployment. You can have data being collected from your cloud environment, and basis on the data that we have collected by after applying automatic intelligence, what we can do is we can detect what is happening, we can prioritize how to respond to it, we can investigate into the threats. In the demo you're going to see how easily we will have all the information available in the QRadar, how devices can be integrated so rapidly. The beauty of QRadar is you don't have to start with adding components and doing things. You can straight away start your components to guide them to forward data to QRadar, and QRadar has the capability to automatically discover most of these components and have them added into the console. So let's say I have 20 odd servers on which I have to forward log. I run a batch script on these server. I start their logging, and the QRadar starts receiving the logs. The moment the logs are being received on QRadar will add them as a data source and will have the data being populated in the dashboard. Now this could be data with regards to users, applications, IP addresses, URLs. All the data comes there. And then when you have everything and you're applying intelligence to it, you can perform threat hunting, you can respond faster because you have the visibility, and you can improve. So as I mentioned, the false positive correction. So Why should I continue getting 100 odd offenses when I know that only 20 matters? So I can improve the response system which is there. And what we get detection of advanced threats, we get visibility with regards to our insider threats, we are able to secure our cloud now. And the critical data which is lying there, we are now in a better shape to protect them. With all the visibility and alignment with tools like Resilient, we can efficiently respond and manage our risk. The last point is compliance. We started with compliance earlier also. You know, with you all coming from different walks of industries, some from banks, some from manufacturing, some from IT, you have your own set of compliances which you have to cater. IT would go for a ISO, a bank would go for a PCI, a healthcare would go for HIPAA, a manufacturing would have its own set of compliances in place. There are people who have some set of informations which their organization which is in Europe, they want to go with the GDPR. Now, managing compliances with regards to all these predefined compliance formats can be difficult. QRadar gives out of the box functionalities for these compliance related data where a lot of information is given around this. Correlation rules are created around these kind of activities. So let's say for PCI, if I have 10 odd brute force happening in my environment within one day, I'm not compliant, it will let you know that you have actually gone beyond. You've had 15 odd brute force today and the system is not compliant. We have to improve our system. On top of that, what we also have to offer is a open app exchange. uh, I don't know how many of you have actually gone on to a IBM App Exchange. I would recommend, if you're a user of IBM or you're not using any IBM product, I would still encourage you to go on internet, search for IBM X-Force Exchange. There you would see how efficiently IBM is providing information with regards to all the threat and intelligence. Also, on the other hand, the kind of applications you know uh, are in place to provide additional information. So let's say with all the data that is given to me and I create a correlation rule, where does this incident lies in my MITRE framework? Am I in the reconnaissance phase? Am I at the part where exploitation and delivery is happening? Am I in the part where weakening is being done? All these kind of information I want to be aware of. And that is where these app exchange comes into the place. Even as a customer, if you build upon certain things which you think could be leveraged by others, you can have your own applications being hosted over there as a part of the deployments, and it can help the organizations to proceed onto it. A quick time check, we are at 4:45, so we'll rush a bit. So as I said, we'll cover all the components. So the first thing that we have is QRadar Log Manager. QRadar Log Manager is more about collecting logs and then running queries on these logs. This is not a full-fledged SIM, to be very honest. This is where we have basic capability of collection of logs, and but this box can be later on upgraded into a full-fledged SIM. So that is where we come on to the next part, which is QRadar SIM. This is the component that we're talking about for last 40 odd minutes. So this is where we collect logs and flows, uh, give information regards to threat, and run compliance management related activities. The basic component itself comes along with asset profiling and flow analytics and offense management and workflow. So QRadar also comes with basic workflow functionalities. Mind you, it is not a full-fledged response system because we believe in the fact that the individuals are responsible for their activities. So a SIM is something which should be focusing on a log collection and offense generation, whereas a response system is actually activity of the different component. Now, moving on to the next level, we start talking about Qflow. Now, I spoke of Qflow earlier also. Qflow is where we capture the packet, but we do not store it. When we capture the packet, we extract a little extra information from the packet, from normally what we do in a layer 4, flow collection. Over here, what we do is we collect information in such a way that we understand more about application. So we collect 50 odd parameters which give us insight on what is the application which is being run, what is the hash of the file which was downloaded, what was the things that were being done on the network, the lateral movement and everything. So without actually capturing the packet, we are still able to perform monitoring of layer 7 network, and we are still doing real-time network packet analysis, but we're not storing anything. What in addition to this it is doing is, usually when a correlation rule is triggered, we know about that rule. Over here, it builds a storyline where it gives us the information that before this rule triggered, these were the 5 activities which were done, then this event was triggered, and then after this event was triggered, these were the 3 activities which happened. So it gives you a complete visibility of what actually happened in your environment. The next thing is QRadar Vulnerability Manager and Risk Management. As I told you, QRadar comes with a integrated vulnerability management component. It provides you network scanning and workflows. It lets you understand the risk with regards to the assets that is there. It is scalable in nature, so you can have more and more number of nodes can be added to it. The last component that we have is the incident forensic and packet capture. So though we're doing layer 7 packet analysis using Qflow, we also have the capability to, if required, we can have a complete packet capture done, and from this packet capture we have the capability to regenerate the whole activity which was performed on a network. So we can create from A to Z what happened, who did what. So this is like who, when, what, how of the whole system, who was responsible, what was done, where it was done, why it was done. That complete activity can be recreated, and you can actually see what the individual was up to. So this actually helps you a lot with regards to root case analysis of incidents, and really helps you in proactively looking into the depth of what happened. As I said, UBA, is one of the most hot topic which is there. QRadar comes with UBA, which has, of late what we've done is we've almost 15 times enhanced our ML capability. So, you can go ahead and have a large deployment
আমাদের
with
ছেলেরা তো
regards to a
এমনিতে কিছু
UBA.
বলে
So
না,
you don't
কিন্তু
have
আপনি
to
আমি
buy
একটা
a
কোশ্চেন
dedicated
করেছিলাম।
UBA solution.
আমার
It is
আগামীকালের একটা
already
অবজেক্ট
there
আছে,
as a
7টা
part
থেকে
of it.
একটা প্রোগ্রাম হবে,
There are
যেটা
multiple
ইনফোসেক
algorithms
প্রাইম
which
ই
are
দুটো
built into
ফেসবুক
it.
পেজ
And what kind of
অ্যাজ
use
ওয়েল অ্যাজ
cases you get use
টুইটার
cases
এবং
around
ইউটিউবে
data
একসঙ্গে লাইভ করতেছে।
exfiltration.
এটা
It
কিভাবে
could be
হবে,
cases on your
কি
cloud
করতে পারবে, তাকে
services. It could
আরএনডি
be
করে
bases on
আজকে
your
এটা আমাকে
removable
ট্রায়াল
media.
করতে হবে।
Did you have a data
আমি
loss
সবটা আরএনডি করে
in
করলে
your
হবে না,
environment?
মানে কালকে
What are
বলেছি
the
না, দাদা কেউ ওটা
individuals
বললো না, অভিজিৎ কি একটা
activity which
বললো
have been
বটে,
done? So
বলেছে আরএনডি
all
করে
these
আমার সময় নেই।
functionalities can be
কে আমাদের
covered
টেকনিক্যাল করতে পারে,
using the UBA.
তাহলে একটু লাগান কাজে।
What is the value that
ওনারশিপ
UBA is
নিতে হবে, কি
delivering?
করে হবে?
It helps you in doing effective
মানে
analysis. How?
ইনফোসেক এবং
Because
প্রাইমের
now
দুজনেরই
you have more
3টে চ্যানেল,
visibility
ইউটিউব,
around your insiders.
ফেসবুক এবং টুইটার
What is the
একসঙ্গে লাইভটা
activities which
চলবে।
they are up to?
এবং এটা
It
শুনলে
gives
শুনতে হবে, কারণ আমি
more
তো সামনে
value
বসে
to
থাকবো
your
না,
investment. So
যে করবে
it
তার বাড়ি
helps you
থেকে
with
করবে,
regards
কিন্তু
to
তাকে
your
আজকে আমাকে
investment.
ট্রায়াল দিয়ে রেডি করতে
Uh, your existing QRadar skills
হবে। জানি না, আমি
can
ওটা
be
কি আইডিয়া দিয়েছিল, ওটা
utilized.
আমি
You
করে
don't
দেখলাম,
have to
একটু
have a
ডিফিকাল্ট
different
আছে, আমি আগে
component
করিনি যেহেতু,
and
এখন আর্নি
then
করার আমার
start
সময়
doing
নেই।
UBA.
যদি ও করতে পারে
Solution is
তাহলে ও
there.
করবে, তাহলে
Is all
মানে
you have to do
দু
is
তিনটে
have a
ছেলে
app
এটার
node
পিছনে থাকতে
deployed,
হবে যে
and on
আমাকে ওই
that you can
টেকনিক্যাল
start
সাপোর্টটা
your
দেবে,
UBA application.
এই মালটা
It
কন্ডাক্টর
can help
পাঠিয়ে
you
দেবে।
with efficiencies because you again have the single dashboard. Now, the more number of dashboards we have in place, the more number of people we require, the more number of knowledge we have to gain, and that becomes a problem. So it helps in effectiveness, increasing your ROI, increasing the efficiency. And when we are doing everything with one single dashboard, we require lesser number of time to respond to such activities. IBM X-Force thread feed, as I said, this is one of the leading thread feeds out there in the world at this moment. You know, and this is well known component which is giving you information with regards to industries, with regards to the activities, with regards to phishing and everything which is happening in globally, and all this information is provided to you as a part of the QRadar solution itself. So 73% of our clients have actually recognized the value of this intelligence feed within the first week of deployment. 51% of them say that the accuracy of threat detection has increased. We have reduced the false positive by 50%, which is a big number. If If I continue doing double the work which I'm supposed to do, I'm actually wasting double the time. Now, when I know what is false positive and what is not a false positive, I am aware of how to respond and what to respond to. So this is something that comes bundled as a part of QRadar. This also helps you in responding better with regards to resilient component also, because it gives you more context around offenses. So now we move on to the second part of our conversation, which is IBM Resilient. So it is the security orchestration and automation response tool. In the interest of time, we'll take one more round of questions, and then we'll jump onto this and straight
Yeah,
away
sure,
dive.
Ravi. Yeah, sure, Ravi. And I just want to check with everyone that we are all on the same page. Sometimes we get little technology oriented. Do mention it in your chat, okay? You feel something is not aligned. So there is this question: how does a dynamic environment or other changing factors impact the curator's capability?
Okay, I would need some more background around it. I mean, what if you can unmute yourself, Nits? Can you let me know what is the dynamic expectation over here? What is
Hey Ravi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Hey, so what I was trying to understand is I'm from a compliance background. And so if there's, let's say there's a new legislation or if there's new technology, emerging technology, the risk associated with that, and if you have to do an assessment around it. So how do these kind of factors, technology oriented, platform oriented, network oriented, all these variables, how do these impact the tool in itself? Because as I've understood so far, this is something which is inbuilt, it's got inbuilt capabilities and also is well adept for external factors. But just trying to understand, how does the variability in itself impact the tool? Do you have to do a reassessment, or it's capable enough even to handle that?
Very great question. So I understand your concern here. With regards to compliances, what happens is we have regular changes in legislations and guidelines which are out there. Now,
Yeah.
both QRadar and Resilient gets regular update with regards to the kind of legislations which are involved in all these policies. Especially, when we talk about Resilient, there is a component as a part of it. So there's a module which is totally focused on this one. We call it privacy module, where we give weekly and monthly updates on what are being changed in these kind of compliances. Now, this is not just with regards to industry, but we are even focused with regards to the countries which are there. So let's say a banking regulation in India would be a little different from what is there in Australia, or there could be local legislation which is different at Texas, and there's a different one at New York. So all that information gets regularly updated. Now, whenever an incident happens, it is triggered by QRadar. The updates over there would be in such a way that even the rule sets are modified. Happen is, now I started the conversation by saying that the SOC guy will have a guided response. The guided response actually have the new activities which are required to be part of these responses. So I'll showcase it in my demo, that how once you have a update coming, when you have more information coming, what is the things that gets changed, and how the analyst would come to know that what is new that he has to do. Because the current problem that the industry is facing right now is, you cannot expect a SOC guy to be totally aware of compliance, and you cannot expect the compliance guy to actually have the complete response system with him. These
Sure.
are two different individuals. We need
Yeah.
a system which can bridge this gap, and that is where the next gen SOC comes into the picture.
Okay. Fantastic. Thanks for that, Ravi. That helps.
Sure. How
Yeah,
about
thanks, Ravi. Next is, how efficient is automated analysis?
Okay, so I'll park this question, and I will leave it to the audience to actually respond to this once we've done our demo.
Good
If
one,
you
Ravi.
ask me, if you ask me, I'll be really happy by saying that this is perfect. But let's not do self appraisal.
Sure,
So
Ravi. The next question is, does it help to detect vulnerabilities for Azure Kubernetes cluster and PaaS components like Azure SQL?
Okay, Tahir, this is something that I have to get back to you. I don't have the exact information around this question right now, so I'll just note it down and I'll get back to you on this one.
Yeah, I'll make a note.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
carry on,
This.
Ravi.
So, guys, we'll move into the SOAR part. What I'm going to do with SOAR is I'm not going to take it into very in depth the way we were doing it for QRadar, looking at the time. Just a quick check, Santosh. We have 35 odd minutes. Am I correct?
I was on mute. Yeah, we have around 35 minutes now.
Okay, great. So, this slide. So, what is incident response and why we require it? I'll just quickly take you around this thing. Now, we've been talking about this thing. We've been talking about a lot of information, a lot of problems, and everything. Now, how this actually looks when we start looking at it from a response perspective. Now, every SOC, no matter how many individuals are there, when you do an employee assessment, you will notice that you are running short on staff because there are so many new attacks which are coming. So, survey says that 77% of the organizations as actually finding it difficult to hire people who are having enough security skills, and because of which what happens, we have shortage of staff. Now, why do we need enhanced security skills? Because unfortunately, the sad part of the security industry is the people who are intelligent, who could have done good to the society, is actually sitting on the other side of the wall and doing bad to the society. They are continuously developing and evolving themselves and creating really good viruses, malwares, attacks. Now, you know somebody would say, why you're calling them good, but we have to appreciate the fact that these guys are actually very intelligent, and had these guys been on our side, lives would have been easy. But unfortunately, they're on the other side and life becomes difficult. So you see, in the first part we have lesser number of people. On the second part, we see that there are more complex attacks which are there. So one individual who was supposed to look after two attacks is now looking after four attacks, and we need more hands at deck. Now, compliances, because of these new attacks which are coming, because people are getting more tech savvy, they want to be aware of where their data is residing, how secure their data is. Now, even if you do a registry form, people really want to ask, there are now check boxes in application forms which says, do you want to be aware where your data is lying? Do you want to know why and how your data is being collected and where all it is being used? So the customers to which we are serving, the customer to which your industry is serving, want to know where their data is. So similarly, there are more and more compliances which are being generated around this. And as I mentioned a little while back, the problem is not one individual would be able to understand all the compliances. If we end up understanding all the compliances, he will not be able to understand all the security devices. So we are actually stuck in a situation where we want a lot of people to work on a lot of new attacks, and we want people to actually help us with compliances, but we end up with a lot of devices. Because what we do, we end up buying more and more devices. This will help me with this will help me with this. Now, post I've purchased a SIM and I've gained visibility, do I really need 20, 30 more devices? Or do I want a tool which can actually help me leverage the devices which are already in place? Because look at this combination. Two people were earlier looking at two attacks per day, looking at two odd compliances and 10 devices. Suddenly, these two individuals are looking at five attacks, five compliances, and 50 odd devices. Life has become hell for them. And we have to be honest, we all have gone through this phase of our life where we always have lesser number of time and more number of activities to look after. Especially the guys who worked in SOC, they would agree to this thing. We've had sleepless nights because there are things that we need to look after every day. Now, how can we ensure that with this lesser number of time, lesser number of people, more number of attacks, more number of compliance, and more number of devices, we still control this whole thing and have faster responses? And that is where we need a tool which can help the SOC in orchestrating and automating our activities. Now, just 1 minute I will spend on orchestration and automation. Trust me, this has nothing to do with this presentation. Uh, it's just a simple definition that I'm going to explain. And why I'm doing this is because sometimes we go in the wrong direction. We think of a product like SOAR and we say, okay, I will integrate all my firewalls and it will update the rules and do everything. I don't have to do anything. No, we're not automating the activity. What we are doing, we are converting our standard operating procedures, which are currently on papers, we are making them into a flow. And this flow is now having some automated activities together. Now, how it will help me is when I see a offense, my incidents are automatically generated. My data around these incidents are gathered. Now, I have the authority to take decision. Should I block it? Should I escalate it? Should I, you know, give this individual a permission? My activities which I have to perform, I am now able to perform more efficiently because I've gained further context around it. I have informed the right individual. I have created all the compliance related activities which are required and I've noted down everything which is there. Now that gives me a comfort level. On top of this, even if I want my actions to be automated, I can. But should I be automating everything on day one? You should never. It's like there are cars which are driverless. How many of us would risk our life and sit in a car like that? We would not. Because till the time something has proven its capability, we never want that to happen. Now, am I saying the tool cannot automate? Yes, it can. But you have to understand security is not a control C, control V. You cannot cut copy paste security of one organization onto other. So every infrastructure, every organization, every SOC has an individuality of its own and it requires a process. So how we take it is we start from orchestration and then we move into complete automation. I hope I've been able to convey my message because sometimes I really feel that everybody is just running on to the part where they want to say, can I remove my L1 completely? Can I have the whole thing automated? Imagine what if a false positive was triggered, we were not able to diagnose it properly, and we ended up closing a service which was one of the main backbone services of my industry. What will happen then? So we have to be responsible on that part. So taking you to the next slide, what is intelligent orchestration and what is that resilient talks about? So resilient again is focused on a three-legged stool. I would say you look at this from top view and you would notice that it's like a table with three legs. What are the three legs? First is case management. Any time an incident happens in any of the SOC, in older times, what we used to do, we have to have a log book. We eh, collect all the informations, the activity, what we did, at what time this happened, and this was a mundane activity, which actually took a lot of time out of our, response activity. But still, we had to do it because we really want to leverage this. But I remember, while I was working in one of the SOCs, back of the mind I knew that okay, this attack has happened in the past, but am I really going to look into 10 old logbooks and find that incident, when it happened and how it happened? How about I have an integrated case management system which gives me the information, okay, this IP address was last observed in July 2019, and yes, it was responsible for a DOS and we blocked it. If I get that information the moment I see a new incident, I know I have to block it. I don't have to waste another 4 hours like I did a year back. This time around, I have enough confidence that I can block it. So, Resilient comes with an inbuilt case management capability where all the offenses which are being sent to Resilient. Now, am I just focused on QRadar? No. Resilient has the capability to ingest incidents from any device. So it can take it from a SIM, it can take it from a ticketing system, it can take it from an email. So let's say I send an email, there is an incident, there's some information in that email, it will automatically convert that email into a case. I can have a web-based, page built on which people can then come and update this thing. They can do it manually. And then what I can do as a part of this case management, I can track complete activity. At 9 o'clock in the morning, DDoS event happened. Then at 9:01, we created the incident. At 9:03, this IP address was added. At 9:10, we blocked the IP address. Complete audit trail, which is very much relevant for compliance related activity, will automatically be generated as a part of incident response process. Now, the beauty of Resilient is the playbooks which are there are NIST and SANS based. So all the reports and audit that you are creating post this incidents are already audit ready. So you don't have to create new templates and start working around it. Your response process is already aligned to the best of the best, which is there in the industry on how to respond to any incident. Now, I spoke about orchestration and automation. We can have various activities performed. So let's say when I got a username, let's say Ravi M, I want to know who this guy is. I send an automatic query to Active Directory, leverage the information about Ravi M. I get his mobile number, his email ID, his manager's information. Now, the attack was actually a endpoint based attack where I noticed that the IP address of the system was compromised. So I can go to a CMDB to see, what is the asset that he's doing. So Resilient has the capability to go to CMDB and leverage more information. Now I see a hash from the files which were there. So how would I do some search around this hash? I can contact third party feeds. So there are 8 or 10 odd third party feeds which are out of the box integrated. You can have more and more feeds integrated as a part of the solution also. So you can contact third party. So that is where the threat intelligence platform comes into the picture. And you have the capability to now, with all this information which is there, the ability to respond to these kind of attacks. And this whole thing is called as a playbook generation. Now, a fun fact, when did I learn about playbook? I was watching an English movie and I realized playbook is actually,
তবে সে ঠিক
something
আছে,
which
সে
is
তো সে
being
তো
very
ওকে
commonly
আমি
used
সন্ধ্যাবেলা নেবো,
in
ওর মেশিন টিম
American
নিয়ে
rugby.
করে না।
Sorry. So American football, as they call it,
সেটা
which
না
is rugby,
থাকতে হবে, ইজ ফাইন।
they have two
তাহলে আমি
teams,
ওর
which is
7টার সময়
offense and
ওকে আমি
defense.
আজকে
The
আমার
moment
ট্রায়াল
that
দেবো
they
একটা,
will perform
তাহলে ওকে আমি
while
লাইনে দিই। সেও
passing the
আইবিএম এর
ball
লোক,
from here to
টেকনিক্যাল লোক,
there,
কোনো
there's a
অসুবিধা নেই।
70-yard
আর
long
আজকে আমাকে
field
ট্রায়াল দিয়ে
which
রেডি
they
করতে
have to
হবে। আমার
cover
অবজেক্টিভ
to
হচ্ছে
pitch the ball over there.
প্রাইম এবং ইনফোসেকের
That
6টা
that
চ্যানেল
whole
আছে কি
combination of
প্রাইমের।
activities is
তুমি আগে ভালো
played
করে দেখে নাও
together
হয় কিনা।
and formed as a
প্রাইমের
playbook. Similarly,
প্রোফাইল নয়
when
কিন্তু,
I see
প্রাইমের
an incident, who is
ফেসবুক
supposed to
পেজ,
do what? So
টুইটার
let's say
আইডি
player one is
এবং
Ravi,
ইউটিউব
he
চ্যানেল,
has
এই
done his
3টে
activity, he passes the
ইনফোসেকের
ball to
কোথায়,
player two, which
এই
is
6টা
Akash.
জায়গায় একসঙ্গে
Akash
ব্রডকাস্ট
performs
করা
his
যাবে কি,
activity, passes the ball to player three,
তাই না?
Santosh. Santosh sends it to Dia. So now what is being done? These are four people who are participating in this game and the ball is being sent to them. Now, this is not the actual passing the ball and saying my work is done kind of a thing. What we're doing is we're passing the baton, if we have to say it in that manner. So it's like a 4x100. We have done our role. We are giving the information forward. Now, who has done what? That complete information is already logged in case management. You can attach information such as packet capture files. You can have artifacts, snapshots, maps. All those things can be
ওটা বলছি
attached
না,
to
তাহলে
any
আমার
of the incidents
ফেসবুকে
to
ডাইরেক্টলি করার
ensure
জন্য
that
আমার তাহলে ওবি স্টুডিও
we
যাওয়ার কি
have
দরকার, আমি তো
components
এমনি করতে পারি।
which are playing the role of connecting
ফেসবুকে
them.
কি
So
ডাইরেক্টলি
it
লাইভ
also
করতে পারি,
works as a
আমি ওটা
a
ওবি স্টুডিওতে কেন
library
করবো?
of what all we've been doing over a period of time. So let's say if tomorrow somebody comes and say, what is the SOC up to? The very moment you can open a dashboard and give him the information, there are
না সেটা তো আমি
30
এমনি
odd
ওয়েব এক্স
cases
দিয়ে
which are
করতে পারি,
running
আমি ওটা দিয়ে
currently.
কেন
Half of
করবো?
them are in engage
তুমি
phase,
ব্যাপারটা আবার বোঝো,
some
আবার
of them are
আবার
in
লজিকটা
response
বুঝতে পারো।
phase. There is
একটা
this is
লোক
the amount
লাইভ
of
একটা
time. So
কিছু
it
করবে
gives you
পারফরমেন্স,
complete
মানে একটা
SLA-based
নর্মাল টেকনিক্যাল
information
সেশন নয়,
on the
সুতরাং ওটা
activities
এটা
which is
শুধু
happened
তার ভিডিওই
and
আসবে।
the
তা
things
তুমি
that
যদি
he's
বলো
been
আমি
doing over a
ভিডিওটা
period of time.
ট্রান্সমিট করবো ফেসবুক লাইভে, আমি ডাইরেক্ট
So we've already discussed this
দিয়ে কেন
part on
করবো?
where the
আমার লজিক হচ্ছে
escalation can come
মাল্টিকাস্ট
from.
একসাথে,
This is where I was talking
সেটা
about, what is the team utilization.
তাহলে কি করে, তাহলে অন্য কিছু
CISO
করতে
wants
হবে।
to
আর
be aware
স্ট্রিম
of
দিয়ে
something
হয়,
else, whereas the
আর
CISO wants
স্ট্রিমের
some
ফ্রি
other information.
ভার্সনে
So you can have
ফেসবুক পেজ
multiple
করা যাচ্ছে
dashboards
না, ফেসবুক
created.
আইডি দিয়ে
The
করা
reports
যাচ্ছে,
can
আই
be
নিড এ
created
ফেসবুক পেজ,
accordingly. You can
এটা
have those
করতে হবে।
playbooks created where you define who need to do what and when. and how effect.
একসঙ্গে তিন জায়গা থেকে
Okay, there's a question. We'll park it right now. We're just
সে তো
running short of
আমিও
time.
জানি ফেসবুক পেজ
So
দিয়ে কেন হবে, আমাকে থার্ড পার্টি বার করতে
the
হবে।
orchestration part is
আমি
where we
স্ট্রিম দিয়ে
define what
তিনটে
all
একসঙ্গে
activities
হবে,
are required, and there is
ফেসবুক
a very
ফেসবুক
big
আইডি
ecosystem out
দিয়ে
there
তিনটে না,
which
একসঙ্গে
already
30খানা
have a
স্ট্রিম
lot
হবে।
of
আরডি
integrations
স্ট্রিম ডট আইওডি,
published.
কিন্তু
So
ফেসবুক
there is
পেজ হচ্ছে না, মানে
150 odd
ফেসবুক
integrations that
কি
have
হচ্ছে,
already
ওই
been achieved and
আইডি হচ্ছে,
published.
কিন্তু আমি
Also,
আইডিতে
there is a
সলিউশন
GitHub.
করে
So
করা যেত।
it's like we have a Google Play Store and an Android Play Store for this tool. So there are
আমি
things
আমি
that
তো
we
তাই
own. There
লিখেছিলাম,
are things
তুমি
which are
অবিস্টুরিও
already
বললে
there.
কেন,
You can
খারাপ,
leverage.
কি
So
মুশকিল?
there's a lot of
আমি
information
তো লিখেই যে
available. You
একসঙ্গে সব
also
করা
have
করতে হবে,
SDKs. So you
আলাদা জন্য
want to
আর কি
build
সলিউশন
your
কি
own
দরকার, এটা আমি
integrations.
এমনি
You can actually go ahead and do so. So
আলোচনা
we
করে
just
বার
spoke
করো
of these
কিভাবে করা
things.
যায়।
Can we do
আরডি
escalation?
স্ট্রিম
Yes.
একটা
So
সলিউশন আছে, আরডি
not
স্ট্রিমের মতো
not
নিশ্চয়ই
just SIEM
কমপ্লিটলি
that we
করা
are
সলিউশন
focused on.
আছে।
Can be ticketing
আরডি
systems
স্ট্রিম
always.
ডট
If you have a third
রিস্ট্রিম ডট
party,
আইও,
can be a
এটা
DLP
দিয়ে
system.
30খানা
You
চ্যানেল
can
একসঙ্গে মাল্টিকেস্ট করা
enrich
যায়।
your content with endpoint sandboxing. Let's say
সে
there's a
আমি গ্রুপে
file
লিখেও দিচ্ছি আরডি স্ট্রিম
came into the system. Now 10
ওয়েবসাইটটা,
odd
এটা দিয়ে
individual receives this file.
সেটা ফ্রি,
One send it to SOC
30খানা
and
চ্যানেল
say
করার
that
জন্য
I've
ফ্রি।
received this file, I
আমার
find it
বটলনেকটা
fishy, I don't
হচ্ছে
want to open it.
ইউটিউব,
Can you do
টুইটার
analysis
করতে
for me?
পারছি,
Now,
ফেসবুক পেজে করতে পারছি
executing
না, আই
a
নিড ফেসবুক
unknown file
পেজ,
is a
কারণ
very
ওখানে
risky
আমার
component. Now, the
পেজে
moment this
3000
email reaches
আর
the SOC,
ইনফোসেকে
SOC
10,000,
will forward
13,000
this file to the
সাবস্ক্রাইবার আছে, এই
Anti-APT
জন্য আমার
solution,
পেজটা দরকার।
where this would
ও
be
অ্যালাউ
ingested,
করছে
tested,
ফেসবুক
and the
আইডিতে,
information would be.
সেটা করে আমার
Now,
লাভ
we have
হবে
a
না।
lot of IOCs around it. First thing, what I'm going to do is I am going to direct my web gateway that any file with this
না না,
hash
আরডি
should not
স্ট্রিম
be
দিয়ে হবে,
downloaded.
কিন্তু আরডি স্ট্রিম দিয়ে আমার
Second thing,
পারপাস
what
সার্ভ
I'm going to
হচ্ছে না,
do is
সেটাই আমি
I'm
বলতে
going to
চাচ্ছি।
check with the help of my endpoint
পেজ
system
হবে না
if
ওখানে, তাই
any other
বলেছে, মানে
system
পেড
has
ভার্সন হলে
this, or
ফেসবুক পেজ
maybe I
হবে,
can query
আদারওয়াইজ
the web
ফেসবুক
gateway
আইডি
to
হবে।
see how many
বাট
other
আই এম
systems
শিওর
have downloaded
দেয়ার
it.
আর আদার অপশনস
Once I
আলাদা
have
ফ্রম
that, I can actually leverage if there is a patch management or anything. Or let's say I don't have anything available, I can
ফেসবুক
actually
অ্যাকাউন্ট থেকে
trigger
হবে,
an
কিন্তু সেটা
email
তো
to this
পেজে যাচ্ছে
individual
না,
and say,
অ্যাকাউন্ট থেকে হলে আমার লাভটা
don't
হবে।
execute this file. This is malicious in intent. You should be deleting it at this moment itself. You can also
ধুর,
integrate with
তাহলে লাইভ
existing
কোথায় হলো?
ticketing
আমার তো
solution. So
লাইভ
let's say there's a
অডিয়েন্সটাকে করার জন্য
central
ব্যাপার,
ticketing solution
সে তো
with
আমি
regards
এমনি
to the
করতে পারি, রেফা
organization,
বলবো তুই বাড়িতে
and you
রেকর্ড কর,
want
ওটা আমি
that to
ইউটিউবে
be
তুলে দেবো
integrated to a
অফলাইন, আর
security
সব
ticketing
ফেসবুকে
tool.
তুলে দেবো,
You
তাহলে আর
can
লাইভ
do it.
করার মানে কি?
So you can have all those integrations done.
লাইভ আর রেকর্ডেড
Resolute
ভার্সনের
works on
ডিফারেন্স আছে।
two major technology. One is REST-based APIs, and the other one is Python. Now, there is no product out there in the industry which is not leveraging this. So, in short, we are able to integrate with any product which is out there which supports either REST-based APIs or Python. We can have scripting done, we can have functions created, so we can expedite the
ও
whole
পারবে না,
process of
এটা
building
পারলে
it.
একমাত্র আমাদের সৌম্যদীপই পারবে।
This is the app
আমার
extension that I was
ওয়েবিনারটা
talking
হচ্ছে,
about.
ওয়েবিনারটা হলে
Just the resilient
সৌম্যদীপকে
one
একটু
which
দেখুন,
I have over here.
বুঝুন ভাই দিয়ে,
Similarly, you can
এটা
have
পারলে
one for
একমাত্র
QA. So this
সৌম্যদীপই
is
পারবে।
actually available for most of the IBM products which are there. Currently, you would see the number over here is zero
কাজ,
because I've selectively held on
হ্যাঁ
to resilient component. This number has also increased to more than 150 by now.
কাজটা দিয়েছে
So
মানে হোয়াট ইজ
this
দেয়ার,
is where
কাজটা
you can
দিয়েছে ভাই,
download multiple playbooks and all. The beauty of
হয়ে
Resilient
গেল।
is that it supports
কিন্তু আপনি
Ansible.
7 দিন বসে
Now,
থাকুন দেখুন।
those of you who understand
আপনিও
Ansible,
যেমন ভাবে
Ansible
বললেন
has
কাজটা
more than
দিয়েছে,
1000 plus
মানে
integrations.
ইটস এ
So
5
eventually,
মিনিটস
what
ওয়ার্ক,
you have is
কাজটা
150
দিয়েছে কি,
odd integrations of yours which are there. You can also
মানে কাজটা
leverage the
বলেছে
1000
তো
odd
যেটা আজকেই
integrations which
করতে হবে
Ansible has to offer.
নাকি যেদিন?
So you can leverage that and can have it as a part of integration, in your system.
শৈলেন বলেনি, ইট ইজ দেয়ার কন্ট্রাকচুয়াল অব্লিগেশন।
So in a nutshell,
আগেই আমি তোমাদের
this
বলেছিলাম এটা নিও না,
slides
বলেনি?
actually talk about how organization starts and where it should be moving. So as I said, automation,
Once
is
they are
not
bound to
something that
give
we should be
contractual
looking at. We
obligation,
should be
নাহলে আমি
looking
উকিলের
at
চিঠি পাঠাবো।
progressing into the whole orchestration journey, because automation is just a one of the screws into the whole activity. So when we start talking about orchestration, we start building the soul. So we have to understand what are we doing, what are the standard operating procedures, who are the team who are involved in it. Then we have to understand what is that we want to automate. How will we
আমি কি
ensure
করবো?
that
তোমার ইন্টারনাল
the
প্রবলেম তুমি সেটেল করো,
integrations are
দ্যাট
there?
ইজ
What are
নট
the
মাই প্রবলেম।
timelines on which we have to work
ওকে
on?
ধরে চাবি
We
চাবি
have
দিন
to be
সব
ready for anything wrong that happens. Let's
ওর
say
রিমুভ করলে হবে না, ওকে
my
চাবি
system
দিলেই
is
ও গিয়ে
down.
ওখানে
Can
কাজ
I
করে
can I still
দিন ধরে
work?
চাবি।
Do I have
তাহলে আপনি
playbooks which
করবেন না
can
তো
be
কে করবে?
leveraged
আপনি
again and
যখন
again?
এই
Because
চারবার
if
ছেলে
there is
পাঠান
a
তখন তো
playbook
আপনি
and I
বহু কথা
cannot
শুনি,
modify
ওই
it, I have
কথাই
to
নিতে
run
হবে।
through the whole process
এখন
over and
আমি
over
আপনাকে
again
ছাড়া অন্য লোক যদি
to
ফোন না
ensure that
তোলে,
things
আমি তো
are
আপনাকেই বলবো,
useful.
আপনি ইন্টারনেট
Uh,
ট্রান্সলেট করুন,
how
যে
much of
আপনাকে গালাগাল
automation
দিচ্ছে
is
লোকে।
I'm looking forward to, and how quickly I can start my system if these automations are not in place. And once the SOC is matured, it has to give me some data. I mean, I deploy a product, and you guys would agree to it. I mean, I've been a customer and I understand this thing. When I buy something, I have to tell my organization what is the ROI this device is giving to me. So if there is a next gen SOC that I've deployed in my system, how quickly I am responding to alerts, how many incidents which I used to maybe like close in 30 days, how quickly am I doing it? Is it 5 days? Is it 10 days? So the moment I say I've reduced 10 man days effort, I know that 10 man days eventually leads to the amount of money that I've saved. So what is the metric that will help me in calculating the efficiency that I've brought into the system? So I will be if you have any questions on this, we can surely take that up after the demo, or you can write to me on this thing. We are running short of time. We have like 14 odd minutes, so we'll jump onto the demo. In the meantime, Santosh, if you can check if there are certain questions, I'll just be stopping the
Yeah,
recording for a
yeah,
minute,
yeah, yeah.
setting up. Yeah.
Sure, sure, sure. There was one question. You want to make a note, right? While
No,
you're
no,
setting
just
up the demo. You want me to read it
just
out?
just read it out. I'm just actually putting in some
Sure,
passwords.
sure.
There are a lot of passwords that have
Sure,
been.
sure, sure, sure. So there is one question. Can we have an example of combining artificial and human intelligence?
Okay, so Resilient is actually helping in the similar grounds. When we talk about orchestration, it's the automation is what? When we are able to do
চলো
activities basis
মারছে
on the definitions that we've
এই
given.
দেখ
Now, we cannot always trust that because there is always change which is happening. So now what we need a guided response where individuals are still there because it is human who's eventually going to take the action, but he's being supported by the system while he's getting all that information into the system. So yes, Resilient actually works on the same line where we talk
রিজুভিনেট
about
বানান কি
providing information and eventually ask the admin to take actions onto this thing. We can
100
totally
জন লোক হয়েছে
automate it also on the other hand.
রিজুভিনেট বানান জিজ্ঞেস করছি কালকে এই দাও কালকে কি করবে দেখ এই দেখ
Ravi, that was the only question we have. Other than that, we have addressed.
Okay, so let me share back my screen. Guys, I know we have a very short time and this would be too much of information. Feel free to connect with us if you need you know anything with regards
Yeah,
to any specific technology. It's not just the 90 minutes that we have to focus right now. You can anytime get in touch with us. My a small ask that I have to all the participants is just answer three questions, and you can have them sent to the prime team. It's Did you find the session of any help? Let's be honest about it. What is that you want to hear more about, and how can we get in touch with you to explain that to you? So I do understand that there could be questions which remain unanswered and the APT is missing.
Yeah,
So
Ravi,
we are there.
I would like to add some point. The Shushovan, all of them came through a registration channel. So post the event, we will give them a feedback form as well. So they can reply to that mail also. Whatever pending queries they have, they need further information, so that we can connect with the IBM team as well.
That will be great. That will be
yeah,
great.
yeah. So Shobhan, that will be great. And also, see, we are here to help you out. We understand that 90 minutes are not good enough, but Ravi is doing a fabulous job in terms of trying to explain you. Along with the Prime InfoServe team, we will be very happy to guide you with your next steps. So feel free. And if this session gets extended, we are okay by some time, and we can do it. Right? How much time would you require, Ravi, more to complete the demo in a decent manner?
See,
Another,
honestly, at least
I think we
15
have to
minutes is
extend.
what
Yeah,
at least 15 minutes is something that I need, and it
yeah,
can
yeah,
go to
yeah,
any length
This
subject
is
to.
fine.
And for
Please
this,
go ahead. I guess there is no problem.
yeah, yeah.
and for this, what I would request, if anybody has a question, just shoot it away, because I know with the demo parking of questions is not possible. So if anybody wants to ask anything, they can straight away go ahead and ask the question. So what we're seeing right now is the dashboard for QRadar. Now we can build multiple dashboards, and there are dashboards which are available out of the box. So we have compliance related dashboards, we have network related dashboards, in dashboard giving risk related information regarding to threat and security. Just a small thing, since it's a demo setup, the data is being locally populated. There would be certain information like the flow you would not see over here because it's all basis on events at this moment. So what we see over here is what are the top alarms, what are the ITS and IPS based signatures which are being triggered, what are the most severe offense which is there, which offense has more magnitude, what are the source countries from where these events are happening, what are the destination. Obviously this is going to be my internal systems, and over the period of time when the traffic is being generated, what ports are being communicated on, all that information is available over here. Now you see on which port which communication is happening, so you get all that information. The other component of this dashboard that we have is the offense dashboard. Now this is where when we collect all the information and the offenses are triggered, is that we get the information. Okay. Now
Ravi,
so
Ajay here. Can I pause you for a minute, sir?
sure, sure.
Can you go back to the dashboard screen, and is it possible for us to have a look at compliance kind of a dashboard, what it would be visualized as? This is more from a
Ajay,
security.
Ajay, as I said, this is a setup which is running on my laptop, and we have very limited data in it right now. For compliance, I have to install few apps into it, which will not be possible on a laptop setup. But we can surely have a dedicated session for you, where we can showcase all these functionalities. Will that work?
I'd be happy if Shishobhan can connect us later.
Or we can also share some compliance related reports that we have.
Sure, we'll do that, Ajay.
Thank you, sir.
So, when we go to offense part, this is where we see all the offenses which are there. Now, these offenses can be based on the category. So, you see that there are authentication, suspicion, what kind of categories are there based on the IP addresses, based on the destination IP address. So, this gives me information. Let's say I have out of this, five of the servers are one of my critical servers. Why is this happening? Who are the users which are involved? Which network, which rule? So, which rule is triggering the most, which network is being bombarded the most. So we get all that information over there. uh, the log activity dashboards can actually help me understanding what is the real time data which is coming, and you can apply filters to this and see if there is anything which is coming right away, or I want to. So very quickly you can just go ahead out of the whole set of information which is there, select any of the device and see if it has sent any data. So let's say I've just clicked on a web gateway which we'll be using. So there is a unknown related log that recently popped out over here. So you see that there are activities are happening. You can select time, duration, everything over here, how many results that you want to see, what is the view, what kind of view you want to see. Is it time and all? Do you want to see normalized data? Do you want to say raw events? Do you want to? So you have the capability to actually look into the data, and this is where we started. We want to see what matters to us. Now, the problem with collecting security logs is it's like finding a needle in a haystack. And though it's an old proverb, but it's very true. You know, you need a big magnet to find that needle because it's made up of steel and you can pull it. Now, what is that big magnet? QRadar is that big magnet which will reveal that needle out of that haystack, because you have the capability to go back and do a lot of activities. Now, if there is some data which is not being understood, you can create its DSMs. You think that this is a false positive, you can trigger it from here and say, okay, this is a false positive. This alarm will stop coming from next time onward. If you are collecting network related data, that data will pop up over here. So things like a net flow, J flow, Q flow, packet captures and all will come over here. Basis on the data that we are collecting, there we so this is something which is automatically generated. Now all the IP addresses and everything which has been involved over here, who's the user which has been working on these IP addresses, when were they last seen in the system, that complete information of asset has been covered. If there is a VA scan that would have been performed on these assets, then the information would have come here. Now, since currently we're just looking at the endpoint level, we are able to see assets. You can generate reports. So there are a lot of reports which are available out of the box. You see there is PCI compliance, there is vulnerability last week, asset related compliances. So you have all those things. You can create a group, you can create different kind of combinations of it. And these are just the out of the box reports, and there are multiple other out of the box reports which are also there. Uh, you know, Let me show you one thing. This might be of actually miss this capturing this as a part of. Oh, seems like everybody has an app exchange. I just captured the resilient part and capture the QRadar. So let me just take you there right away. There are multiple beautiful apps which we've created. So rather than having all these apps imported into the box where you hardly need 5 or 7 of them, what we've done, we've created an app store. You can download various apps from here, and these apps can be then imported into the system. Now there are apps like Pulse which helps you create dashboards as per your need. There are apps like MITRE ATT&CK framework. Now this gives you the information of what's happening. So let's just like this. So, QRadar Manager, which will help you with respect to the MITRE ATT&CK frameworks and defining your QRadar use cases around that. If you're using Advisor and Watson functionality, you can leverage this app. Now, similarly, what you can do the same for Resilient also. So the moment I click Resilient, you see that there are some Resilient related apps which are also popping up. So you can leverage these apps which are there out of the box. Okay. It's very Yeah, so this is the basic dashboards that we see from here. Now we here I have capability of sending it to resilient. So what I can do is I can configure it in such a way. Let's say if the magnitude of the event is more than a particular number, let's say it's 6, 7, 8, 9. This should be automatically sent to resilient. So this would ensure that the event when it triggered is automatically sent to resilient. So let's say I click on this and I want to send it to resilient. Oh, oh, sorry, that's what I was doing. So there was a so what I can do is I can configure this to forward the log. Let me just log out and log in once. Similarly, we have another component that we call I2 analyst. Now this is where we can extract information and do a post facto analysis also. This is a component that is part of our threat management portfolio, and this is where we start collecting information and doing threat analysis. Now, when we send an incident to resilient, it automatically get converts into a offense. It gets converted into incident. So this is one case that I have forwarded yesterday. Now you see the date of discovery is this. What is the next date when this incident was created? What is the description? What is the QRadar ID? Now let me just go back to QRadar. So see, 481, this is the case which I forwarded yesterday. Now there is a note which is automatically created, manual escalation of event, offense to resilient initiated on so and so date with a time. So the moment we have forwarded to this particular interface, there has been an information which has popped up here. Now, when you go over here, in the details, you get to see the complete information about this incident. Now, there are certain fields which are not populated. You can go ahead and populate that as a part of it. There are tasks which are created automatically. So since this is a login failure related activity, the incident has confirmed it as a system intrusion, and all the guided response that is required for such activity has been provided over here. So you see, there are different activities which this individual needs to do, and there is a time frame by which this has to be completed. So this complete information is gathered over here. On the other hand, when I click on this audit, there's an analyst dashboard which is there. It gives you the information of what was actually reported. So when this incident was created, a artifact was generated. This incident was assigned to system admin. What was the task which were assigned? So complete information is given. Now we go to the artifact tab and we see that there is a user account which has been involved over here. So what has happened is with just one click of a button, we were able to send information from QRadar onto Resilient, and Resilient was then able to generate lot of information around this. Now when we do further analysis around this, and when we want to do further activity around this, what we can do is we can select this and then create multiple actions around it. Now there are actions which are defined for various kind of components, like when I say, can I block a IP address on a firewall, can I block a URL somewhere else? So let's just do one simple thing. uh, will so this is okay. So this is a email which I've integrated with my Resilient platform. What I'm going to do is, using my phone, I'm going to send an email onto this one, and I'm going to add a URL. Okay, I'm just going to add a URL to it. Uh, just a second. So it will have. I'll share again. Hide email itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to block a URL. Okay. So let's do it. Okay. TPS email. Just sent an email. Uh, in the meantime, we do our other activities. We will see that this incident will get populated over here. We go to the console of this and we see that there would activity. So this is actually the CLI console where all the activities will be broadcasted once the things start happening. So we'll jump out of it and we go to our dashboard and see what other activities are happening. So we see that over here, these are the dashboards which we have. So this is one. We can have multiple dashboards created. We can edit these dashboards and we can have more fields and things attached to it. So now, do we want to have the MITRE attack tactics and names and techniques as a part of main dashboard itself? We also have two combinations over here. One is the administrator settings, which is for the admins who, give a lot of information where you want to block things and do activity. Whereas the other one is for people who want to have, you know, create the custom settings. So I'll put it over here for you to just read it for 1 second. Then I'll explain this. So what you see over here is components which are part of the whole activity. Now, as I said, we add artifacts. So there are out of the box multiple artifacts type which are there. So you can see that there is address, email, file path, HTTP, lot of components over there. You can create your own set of artifacts. We had a question around compliance by Nets a little while back. So we have compliances and regulations around organizations and industry, and this is almost everything which is out there. So let's say if you are from any of the industry, we can have these compliances as per your region and industry. So all that information would be provided over there. uh, we have just received the mail over here. We go to the console, we see that the activities will start happening over here now, because the system is going to read it. So now all this information is being available over here. This is basis on the compliances that are there. Now we've just received an incident, date of discovery 13 April itself. It says, so we'll just jump onto the mail part. This is a mail that has been captured. Now what the mail says, block a URL. This is the subject, and are there any artifacts available? Okay, he's given us an email subject to block a URL. Now, unfortunately, the URL I forgot to type the URL. So let's just add a URL over here. Let's say the URL is this. This URL. Now this is one of the artifacts over there. You would notice the moment I clicked on typed the URL, there were certain things which started popping up over here. So what it is doing in the background, it has automatically initiated thread feeds to check information around this particular URL, and you would see that there is a lot of activity which is happening over here in the console. So what it is doing, it is looking for multiple information around this URL. Now, can I add new pass to it? Can I give more information? So till now, what has happened is I have not defined any incident type because we have not given any information. So what we can do is we'll just see and we'll select a type of incident. So let's say we can say a bad URL or we can give some other. So in the interest of not doing any action, I'll just give it other because I want to do manual actions and showcase how we can do it. So we'll jump back to the URL. You can see by now what it has done is it has found out the IP address for Gmail. So it's a IPv6 which is there. So it has gone ahead and found out what are the IP. So this is a context that we were talking about. Now QRadar was able to generate some information related to Resilient, how Resilient can respond to it. Now let me log in into my web gateway. Just log in and see. Okay. Oops, bad password. This has happened, so I don't want it to happen. So just jump here, start the web services. Similarly, over here, what we're going to do is we're going to add an IP address also. IP address, we'll block that IP address in a Palo Alto firewall. So let's put it like this: 3.4.5.6. Get this incident over there. Now we are going to take two actions. So let us first go to this. Over here, we'll see that there is no IP address with 3456, which is there in the system right now. And hopefully, we are by now be able to log into this device. To do that. So, somebody asked me how effectively and easily we could do this. So let's just see. This is the IP address over there, and I just do a block IP address request onto this. Now, for those who know how to block a IP address on Palo Alto, they would know that you have to create a uh, you know IP address object, then you have to pass it, and then you have to block it. So it requires a lot of things, and then you have to do a commit. So usually it takes good amount of time. Let's just go here and refresh this, and we'll see this IP address has been blocked. So we've been able to now what we've done is we've done this as a manual activity for the interest of people to understand what actually has happened. Now this could have been a completely automated activity also where if this IP address range falls under this, or so this could be like a reference set which is there in the QRadar, or you can call it a watch list. And if this IP address falls under any of this watch list, talking to my critical servers, we need to block it. So we could have done that easily. Now, similarly over here, there seems to be some problem in the web gateway actually. Should have not happened like this. First attempt. Now maybe what we can do is, though we are not able to log in from here, we can simply, push this onto the McAfee web gateway, and just like how we were able to do it over there, we can do it also from here. Now, uh, let's see. We have a system. What we've done wrong is let's just edit this one. This should be a HTTPS. So we can't edit an artifact as of now. So what we can do is we can create a new artifact. Let's just block it there. So just block it using web gateway to this machine. So this is a test machine using which we want to check the setup. See that now since we have blocked it on the URL over there, we cannot go ahead and open this page anymore. I hope this is something that people are able to understand, because I'm not getting a lot of noise from the other side. You see the internet.
Yeah, no, Ravi, I think uh,
You see the proxy server is refusing connection. So when we connect
oh,
to the
there is
Facebook,
some issue.
no. This is something that we have blocked. So we are
Okay.
able to go to Google, but we're not able to go to this because we've just applied the policy on the web gateway to ensure that we cannot go ahead and communicate to this anymore. So we can very efficiently from here itself block this. One last thing that I want to show you with regards to this thing is, in the interest of the whole playbook, people want to understand how can I automate multiple activities, and this is one URL which I sorry, this is okay. The phishing URL block. This should be the one. So what you can do is when you talk about activities like this, you can have your own workflow created. This would have combination of real-time activities which are automatically performed and activities which can be performed by the system. There's a palette available. You can have all these things done easily in a drag and drop model, and you can define your own activity. So let's say this is one of the playbook where we get a URL, we want to know the IP address, we want to see if this is a phishing URL or not. Then we want to block it on a firewall and a web gateway. So what we are doing manually right now on different set of components, we could have done that automatically also if we bring a particular playbook into the picture. Now you go over here, you see where all it is being used. So it is being used as a part of phishing verification. It is being used as a part of auto case. So you can create your playbooks and you can have your new things created. The whole dashboard is customized in nature, so you can have everything replaced and be aligned as per your need. So even the input form where you create entries and you create relations, those can be modified also as per your need. So guys, this was the quick demo that I wanted to do. I've overshot by 12 minutes. Still, if anybody has any queries, feel free to ask them, or you can write them to us.
Yeah, Ravi, thanks a lot. Yeah, that was very informative, and I know that with your passion, you love to share more, and the time, sometimes it gets extended. So, any questions from any all of you? Hope you found this useful, and please, any questions from anyone? Please unmute yourself, and you can ask. And thanks for your patience.
Anyone from the audience, if you have any queries, you can unmute your microphone and talk. Okay.
What we will also do is we will share some content with you. So we will do it through our Prime Info Serve colleagues, Sushoban, Sudipta, and everyone. So we will work on that. And as mentioned earlier, this is just the first discussion. We know that in one discussion, you will have many queries. So feel free to reach out to us. We've also shared our coordinates with Prime Info Serve team. We intend to, have more such discussions and carry on our engagement. So one thing that I wanted to, say at the end of the session is we understand that, there are a lot of flexible models that customers are looking at. So we have various licensing models, commercial constructs, cloud-based way of providing the solution. So a lot of flexibility in offering these solutions also. So there's a lot of maturity in these solutions that we are offering. Akash, are you there? You want to just share any points before we close the call?
Yeah, so thank you, Ravi, for that informative session. I just wanted to talk about from the licensing standpoint. QRadar, as we know, works on EPS license. I mean, primarily that is the major cost of the solution, the EPS. Now, EPS licensing starts from a basic 100 EPS, and it can go up to lakhs of EPS. So there are customers that we have which have deployed lakhs of EPS, large banks, large customers. And there are basic customers, small SMBs that consume only 100 to 500 EPS as well. So the licensing model is pretty much flexible and scalable. And from the resilience standpoint, it works on the number of actions. So that again, the basic unit starts from 1,000 actions. So that is one thing that I wanted to add over here.
Thank you, Akash.
Sure.
Akash is based out of Delhi. He keeps coming to Kolkata. We have Dia also, who many of you might be knowing. She's based out of Kolkata and handles the entire East and the Northeast territories for us. So feel free to get in touch with the Prime InfoServe team and even the IBM team. So if there are any closing questions, feel free to ask. Else, I think we can go ahead and close the call. So Shobhan, Suritha.
Yeah. Thank you, Shantas. Thank you, Ravi. Thank you, Akash. Thank you for your wonderful insight. Audience, if you have any specific queries, otherwise we are about to conclude the session. So
So,
far, I
Shobhan,
don't
Ajay
find.
here again. Two quick questions.
Yes, sir.
Ajay here again.
Yeah.
Two quick questions. Is it possible for the IBM team to share with us at some point in time a comparative analysis with other competition products? I
So
don't
I
know about
think
benchmarking.
Ravi and Santosh Ajoyji is looking at some kind of battle card or something like that.
Yeah, so what we can do is we can always, have a discussion around that. We can share certain inputs and we can share what differentiates our solution from others. Generally, we don't try to, get someone down or something like that, but definitely what
A
differentiates our
differentiating
solution.
factor here.
Yeah. We can definitely share a lot of content and we can also have a one-on-one discussion with you along with the Prime Minister team. We can always do that, no issues at all.
And sir, adding to that, actually, I believe I'm in more of a consultative approach. So, in the sense that every customer has a different requirement. So, there might be scenarios where a competition solution would be better than IBM. I cannot deny that. So, in that case, we would want to understand your requirement and then guide you accordingly. If the competition solution does something particularly better, maybe we'll tell you upfront that you go with the competition because that will help you better. So, we need to understand the requirement on a case-to-case basis, and then only we'll be able to take it
No,
forward.
I appreciate that, Akash. In fact, I was going to the second question pertaining to what you had said about the user licensing,
Mhm.
endpoint based. So you are happy to address even smaller customers?
Of course, sir. Of course. Like I said, we start with a 100 EPS license, and I mean 100 EPS license. I think a basic firewall generates a 100 EPS. So we are targeting that kind of customers as well whose EPS is much lower than a firewall. So yeah, and that is why we have such a model that IBM is offering a 100 EPS because we are looking at the basic SMB customers as well.
Thank you. I think we are in the verge of conclusion. So thank you, IBM team, once again for your wonderful insight in this evening session. Thank you, participants, once again. So today's session is going to end now, but there are many interesting sessions tomorrow onwards. You should stay tuned on our mails. The content of today's session will be available in our YouTube and SlideShare channels. Please stay tuned. Look forward to have you other session in tomorrow onwards. Thank you once again.
Thank you, everyone, on behalf of IBM team and Prime Minister. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.